Have Mbeumo, here we go. You've already seen that on the show with Goalkeeper just earlier, and we're here to talk about, obviously, I'm going to give my reaction to Mbeumo. Finally, it has happened. It's been a long 7 weeks, but don't let that take away from the fact that this is a brilliant signing for Manchester United, a top Premier League proven player that I think we're signing for a fee that he justifies. His stats, the way he plays in the Premier League, what he's doing for that Brentford side. I absolutely think that the fee is justified. Why it's took us this long to get to that fee, which is actually a higher fee than what Brentford wanted originally, I'm not sure, but I'm over the moon about this signing and I cannot wait to see Mbeumo on the pre-season tour. Gonna give a little bit of reaction to that, the money that we spent on him, when we can expect to see him, a little bit of details about Mbeumo and what he can provide to this team. But we're also going to talk about who's next for Manchester United. Where do we go from here? Because as good as Cunha and Mbeumo are, we need reinforcements elsewhere, and where are we going to get them? Are we even going to get them? And what do we expect? Just to start us off, make sure you get in the comments what you expect, what you want from this window. How excited are you about Mbeumo? But where do we go to next? Because it's not enough. It isn't enough. What I'm thinking is going to happen is I think we've got Cunha and Mbeumo, which I think are fantastic signings. I saw a tweet last night from Mark, actually, Goldbridge, saying that, we've spent a lot of money now on Cunha and Mbeumo. I think it's well over 100 million, isn't it? What is the actual total fee of them two? If someone would tell me it, that would be great. Not quite sure I want to add that up in my head live. But we spent quite a lot of money on them two players. When are we going to go for our priority positions? And I replied back to it and I said, the attack is our priority positions. 44 goals in the Premier League for Manchester United last season was abysmal. It needed to be addressing ASAP. We've recruited Cunha, we've recruited Mbeumo, who were two of the best performing attackers in the Premier League. I was going to say outside the top six, but in the Premier League, they both were contenders for team of the season. I think if Mo Salah wasn't absolutely off the scale, Mbeumo would have gotten it right wing. The two fantastic attacking machines that are going to add goals and assists to this Manchester United team, which was massively needed. But we do need a striker. I think there's a fair argument there that we need a midfielder. I don't think we're going to get one. And we ideally need a goalkeeper as well. We have been linked to a new young goalkeeper that I will talk about. I want to chat a little bit about Sesko and about Watkins as well. But where my realistic expectations are now is I think it'll be Cunha and Mbeumo, and I think we'll get a striker probably within the last 2 weeks of the window. And I think that'll be it. Maybe a young keeper as well. And I'm going to be completely honest with you here, guys. The fact that we have no European football and the expectations I have from this football club after everything that's happened, I actually would be happy with that. And my standards have dropped. I will hold my hands up and say my standards have dropped. But we're not in the Champions League. We have only got one game a week. Cunha and Mbeumo are fantastic signings. I would never picture Man United signing players like this because we've got it all wrong in the past. These are two brilliant Premier League proven quality attackers that we're adding in. The way we've dealt with them, Cunha was a release clause, which is why it didn't take an age. The way we dealt with the Mbeumo saga, we know it took ridiculously long, and we can go into the nitty-gritty of how we dealt with it, but it looks like it's getting over the line now, a good player. I want a midfielder. I don't think we're going to get one. I've kind of accepted that. I think we do need a new goalkeeper, even if it's just someone to compete with Andre Nana, and then we absolutely have to go and get a striker. I've seen a lot of people saying sleeping on Xerxes, and I've been one of them as well. I think Xerxes, when he's got proper ballers around him, like Cunha and Mbeumo, his standards will be raised because we know how technically good he is, and I do expect a good season from Xerxes. But we need someone else as well. I don't think you can rely on Rasmus Højlund based off what I saw last season. I think we might go down the Ollie Watkins route and Garnacho might go to Villa. I'll get into it, but make sure you get your chats in as well because the show's all about the community. We spoke about the Mbeumo, here we go. We spoke about, what this means for the club, but I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear how you're feeling about where we're going to move to next in the transfer window as well. We've got George Mitchell saying, if over the next week we get rid of players, I'll be happy, but we need to go in for a striker and a goalkeeper ASAP. We all know they won't do both at the same time. Ad Hoc says, wasn't there a brief from the club not long ago that they wanted 4 signings after Mbeumo? Who do you think the 4 are, or do you think that plan is gone? And Dylan Townsend said Mbeumo wage. We've not had absolute clarity on the Mbeumo wage yet, but it was rumoured that it'd be a similar wage to Matheus Cunha, and I think it was rumoured to be around 200 grand a week, which I think for a player of Mbeumo's quality that's taken that step up in his career, 25 years old, that is a pretty good wage, especially when in the past this football club has handed out 350 grand a week to an early 20-year-old Jadon Sancho in the past. I mean, there's been other players that we've massively overpaid. I think giving Mason Mount, as much as I'll rate Mason Mount, he's not a first teamer, he's massively injury prone. He was on the last year of his deal. We gave him 240 grand a week. Like, that was too much. I think we give Anthony 200 grand a week. That was too much when he was first coming in from Ajax. I think we tripled, quadrupled his wage or something. So I think 200 grand a week for Mbeumo is fair, considering that is what Matheus Cunha is going to be on, and they are both similar. I mean, they're different profiles, but they play in similar positions. I mean, they're both going to play together, and they're both of similar quality and have both absolutely killed it in the Premier League over the last couple of seasons. Ashley Jane says, "Hi Beth, keep up the good work. We desperately need a striker and a keeper. Anything else will be a bonus." And just to go back to that ad hoc chat in there, who do I think the four are? I mean, I think Manchester United's plan was to get Mbeumo and Cunha, so that's two, a striker, a goalkeeper, and potentially a midfielder and a wing back. So I think the four that you're talking about is a wing back. We know from Ben Jacobs we've looked at Estepinian. I think a keeper, we know we looked at Emi Martinez, although Ben Jacobs did say that was driven more by Emi Martinez. Maybe he's wanting a little retirement payday. I mean, I know he's not too old for a keeper at 33, but he's probably looking for a paycheck, and Manchester United maybe aren't taking the bait. As much as if it was a good wage, I would actually encourage that deal, because I don't think Onana's good enough. And most keepers would be better than him, to be honest, right now. A midfielder, I think it's obvious, as much as I think Casemiro's going to be part of Ruben Amorim's team this season, I think Amorim made it quite clear early doors he wasn't 100% sold. And I think if we could get Casemiro out, we would. But he's on 300 grand a week. He's got a year left on his deal. No one's paying a fee for him, and no one's even paying that wage. So we're kind of stuck with him, so we can't move him on. So I don't think there's room to get a midfielder in. Mount's going nowhere. Mainoo's going to be signing a new contract hopefully soon. We chose not to get rid of Bruno Fernandes and take the money for him, so he's still there. Ugate's new, and apparently the club have massive confidence in him. I mean, the only one I could really see going is Collier, maybe on a loan, but it doesn't really bring in too much money. So I think we probably wanted to go for a midfielder, but the fact we don't have Champions League football and the midfielders we've currently got, I don't think that will allow it. Keeper, I've spoke about that. We've got a keeper target that I'm going to bring in. And then striker, which I really want to speak about as well and get your opinions on. I really do think that Ollie Watkins could be one that we go for, and not just because of Mark's morning show. Before people start getting in the comments, "Oh, you're just copying what Mark said." I'm really not. I've been thinking about it in my head. If Aston Villa want Garnacho wants a Premier League move, and if, it is true that Watkins has been eyeing a move out of Villa for quite a long time, I think as we get towards the back end of the window, that could be on the agenda. I personally would prefer Mateta for the money that we're going to pay. I think we could get Mateta for the same price that we're going to pay for Ollie Watkins, if not maybe even a little bit cheaper. And I think he's probably, got a couple more years left in him, and I think he's a bit more exciting. I like Ollie Watkins, but United fans don't have patience with the strikers right now, and he does miss quite a fair few chances. I mean, we don't create enough chances for our strikers, so whenever they miss, it's like, oh my gosh, they've missed a chance, because they barely even get a chance. But Watkins at Villa, as much as he's a good striker, he runs the channels well, and he's a good target man, he does bully defenders, and he's got good link-up play. Usually he needs like 5 chances to score a goal, and you just don't really get that patience at United. But I mean, we don't create that many chances. That might change with Cunha and Mbeumo, and the lean pre-season we've got going on, and Ruben Amorim, forcing that style of play onto the players and really getting to work with them. So we'll see on that one. Let me bring in I'm going to talk about Mbeumo, I'm going to talk about the keeper. I want to bring in the keeper target first, because I'm going to be honest, buzzing over the moon about Mbeumo. Can't tell you how excited I am. For the OG watchers of the United Stand, the OG 2 o'clock watchers of my 2 p.m. show, you guys will know I have championed Mbeumo. I don't even know when I started doing it, but I kept saying Mbeumo and Cunha, Mbeumo and Cunha. I didn't have a clue we'd actually managed to pull off both. I thought it was one or the other. So the fact we've got both, even though the way we've gone around the deals, I'm over the moon. You guys will know that. But because I am ambitious and I want this club to get back to the top as quickly as possible, I'm already thinking, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are, what is next? What is next for Manchester United? Where do we go from here? Because it's all good having a singing and dancing attack. You know, you've got Cunha and Mbeumo, Ahmad, Bruno, all on the same team. We need to not be letting goals in, and we need the whole team working together. And I do think a keeper is really, really, really important. It looks like Onana might be back for the first game of the season now. But going straight from an injury where you've been out for pre-season to playing without being sharp is a risk, and it's a risk for any keeper, never mind a keeper like Onana, who is prone to quite a few mistakes. So I do think we have to improve that area. I have kind of let go of the feeling that we're going to get a first-choice keeper. I know Onana's going to stay at the football club. He's not going anywhere. He's got an injury. I don't think anybody wants to pay for him anyway after the season he's had, and he's just not going to go. What I am intrigued about is this second choice goalkeeper that we could bring in, that I think we actually are quite likely to bring in, because I really do think any keeper worth his salt will probably be able to challenge Onana, and they might end up being the temporary number one until we shift Onana maybe next season. And don't get me wrong, I don't want it to feel like I'm like, you know, gunning for Onana here. But at the end of the day, I'm a United fan, and I went to Old Trafford every single time there was a game last season. I even went to some away days, and I had to watch him make mistake after mistake, and my cup's full with it. So I'm just thinking about what's best for the team here. If Onana can't go this season, bring in a young, or don't even have to be young. We've been linked to John Victor from Botafogo, who isn't the youngest keeper, but would be happy to come in as a second choice. So there's two different routes there. Bring them in, compete with Onana, maybe take Onana's place if they're actually decent, which I'm hoping they are. Anyone half decent probably would be able to compete and take the place. And then next summer, when Onana's maybe not happy with being, you know, rotated or maybe not the number one, you then sell Onana, hopefully boost his value a little bit, and you bring in a proper first-choice goalkeeper like Diogo Costa, who Ruben Amorim, since January, has spoken to and has made clear is his first choice. Young, you know, is really promising, got a high ceiling. Ruben Amorim really likes him. It's his guy. That could maybe be the state of play with the goalkeeper. It might require a little bit of patience. Or, you know, maybe the goalkeeper we bring in as the second choice keeper challenges Onana, ends up doing really well, and they get promoted to be a first choice goalkeeper. I know there's people that still have high hopes for Vitek as well. We might get to see him on pre-season. But it's really interesting that Ben Jacobs actually has been speaking about this, and he said that Antwerp goalkeeper Sene Lammens is on Manchester United's radar. Some initial talks have already taken place this summer, with interest dating back to January. So he could be the young goalkeeper that Manchester United bring in. And I was actually just looking through some of his statistics, because I'm sorry guys, I don't watch Antwerp every single week. I'm not absolutely clued up on his game, but he seems exciting. So Sene Lammens has had both the most saves, 127, and the highest save percentage in the Belgian Pro League last season. I mean, it's not La Liga, it's not, you know, Serie A, it's not the Premier League, but still, the most saves and highest saves percentage, that gives me a little bit of hope, because we've currently got a goalkeeper whose weakness is shot stopping. So shot stopping is important, so that's a good thing. He also conceded 14.5 goals less than XG would predict. And that's even better than David De Gea's 17/18 campaign. And them stats came from Statman Dave, by the way, on Twitter, just to kind of shout out where they came from. So remember De Gea's 17/18 campaign. It was absolutely off the scale, unbelievable. I'm not saying this kid is better than De Gea, but the fact he's conceded 14.5 less goals than what the XG was saying means he is a good shot stopper. And I think that's what we're desperate for when it comes for a keeper. And it sounds crazy to say it, because that's your job, as Roy Keane would say, and I can't do Kev's impression, but that is your job. I personally don't think you should have to pick between one or the other. I think when you're playing for a club like Manchester United in goal, you should be able to do everything. You should be able to be a great shot stopper, a good sweeper keeper, good ball distribution. You know, you need to be dominant. You need to have all the strings to your bow. Shot stopping, though, is the first point of action, considering that has been Onana's weakness. And hopefully, he's got them other things to his game as well. I mean, if anyone has more information on him, definitely get it in the chat and bring it into the community, because it'd be good to talk about. But it's interesting. I think we'd be able to get him for quite a decent price. Let me just double check his age. I did have it up before, but, I have lived since then. He's 23 years old. God, he's younger than me. He's 23 years old, and he's got a great build, super tall, and he looks the part. I mean, I can't really go into much detail because I don't know loads about him, but it's something that's exciting to kind of think about, having a goalkeeper that can come in as a younger number 2 that can actually compete with Onana and maybe even take his place. Let me bring in your comments as well. We have David saying, not going to lie, Beth, but I thought we were going to have as bad as a transfer window like the time when United only got Fellaini. But thank goodness for Cunha and Mbeumo deals. And yeah, as much as, I'm going to be honest, with what the other clubs around us have been doing, the City, Liverpool have just been off the scale, haven't they? Chelsea as well, that João Pedro signing was fantastic, but they've also done other good deals. And Newcastle showing a bit of ambition. And by the way, sorry Newcastle if they don't end up getting Visser. They've had a bit of a... they've been ambitious, but they've just had a little bit of a shocker in terms of timing and the players that they've gone for in terms of not being able to get priority positions over the line. And they've got Champions League football as well. And that just shows, United still carried that weight. I have felt like we've started to lose it because of how laughable we've been and how bad we've been. But to get two of the best players outside the top 6 in the league, not even outside the top 6, two of the best players in the league, to join this club at 15th with no European football. And then Newcastle are struggling to get top targets and they've got Champions League football. It shows like Manchester United still does hold that weight and that reputation, and we really need to capitalise on that with the signings that we've made and get back to the top so we don't have to rely on that anymore, and that reputation doesn't fade and we build a new history where we are winning titles. And it's important that we don't let that fade away and just rely on that. But as much as, the other business from the top clubs in the window, even the Arsenal getting Gyökeres, Zubimendi, the Valencia centre-back that they went and got, and the business they've been doing, I've been sat here thinking, I'm buzzing with Cunha, but come on, we need to do something. The teams that are already way better than us are strengthening better than us, so it literally gives us no opportunity to catch up. But if you put it into consideration, and I'm not being, overly positive here, because I do have criticisms about how long this Mbeumo deal has took, because realistically, it was 7 weeks ago we initially inquired about Mbeumo, and we've paid more than what I originally thought we were going to pay at the start of June. I think we could have paid around 60 million at the start of June, and it's ended up being a package up to 71. Now, it is 4 instalments. You don't know how the bonuses break down. You don't know when them instalments are going to be paid. It could be a way better payment structure, and that's why the negotiations have took a long time. If we are paying a very low fee for Mbeumo initially, and the payment structure makes sense for United, and that allows us to spend more this window, I can understand the hard negotiations. But 7 weeks is it's mental, isn't it? So I'm not taking away from the 7 weeks, but you have to look at it and say these players are really good signings, really good players. And if we get a goalkeeper and a striker on top of that, I'll be very happy. I will be very happy. But ideally, I want to get them deals done at least, a week before the season starts. I would have said pre-season. I would have said the US tour a month ago or so, but we've passed that now. We're not even talking to a striker. We're not in deep talks with a striker anyway than what we know of. I want to get him in before the season starts. I don't want to be doing it after a few weeks when we're looking at our results and thinking, do you know what, we actually probably should have gone for a striker and a goalkeeper earlier. And Arna's dropping howlers. And, we've got Cunha and Mbeumo, but it's obvious that we're missing that striker up front. So I want to get that business done before the season starts. Do I think we will? No. I think the goalkeeper, maybe. I think the goalkeeper we might move to next. The striker, I think that's going to be, if it happens, because I still see a world where we might have to play Cunha or Mbeumo up front, or, Xerxes rotates with them too, or, Højlund might start, who knows. I still see that could be a potential, but we have to go and get a striker, I think. And if we do, I do think it'll be in the last few weeks of the window, the last couple of weeks even, and it's probably when the season will have already started, which is frustrating. But I'm generally not even going to say this now because we've got the deal done. Oh, I don't know whether to say it actually, because you say stuff online and it gets taken out of well, you can't really take this out of context. It is my opinion, but it gets clipped up, it gets sent around, and it's like, oh, maybe I should have just kept that to myself. But I don't want it to get misinterpreted, because striker is our priority position and we have needed a striker for a long time. I don't know if this is outlandish to say, but I'm going to be honest. If you said to me at the start of this window, you can either have one or the other, Gyökeres or Mbeumo, I would have picked Mbeumo. I've said it now. I would have. I'm not just saying that because we've signed him, and I don't think it's an excuse for Manchester United not getting a striker, but Mbeumo is a Premier League proven player in a position I think we really need. I think him and Ahmad linking up on that right-hand side is going to be sensational to watch, and I think he's got more of a chance of being a success. I do think we need a striker though. I do think we do. But if we end up getting a Mateta or an Ollie Watkins, okay, yeah, they weren't top of my list, but I would rather have a Mateta and a Watkins and an Mbeumo than just like a Gyökeres. I do think Gyökeres is a good player. I do wish we would have signed him. But if you said to me, gun to your head, you can only have one this summer, I would have picked Mbeumo. So that's my opinion on that. I mean, get in the comments down below if you agree or not on that one. Ian Tracy says, the Belgian keeper is a really good prospect. Shot-stopping reflexes, handling crosses, is excellent. He dominates his area and is decent with his feet. Ian, you're selling me a dream. You're selling me a dream. You know I'm the goalkeeper expert. Joking. Keep me away from goalkeepers from now on. But I've said, a United keeper needs to be good at all aspects. And if we trust Ian there, he really is bigging him up. And only 23 years old as well. He's only got levels to go up. So maybe he comes in as the number 2 understudy to Onana. And if Onana does what we think he's going to do, he'll probably quickly compete and take his place anyway. Game O'Lester says, Nunez, Premier League Golden Boot incoming, mark my words. Right, okay, that is an outlandish shout. Thank you, everyone, for getting your comments in. It really is appreciated. Lee Burt says, wing-back Cunha or Mbeumo, Beth? No, I think they'll both play as number 10s, to be honest with you. I think Mbeumo could switch in as a wing-back. I think him and Ahmad could switch on that right-hand side. But I see him playing as number 10s, to be honest with you. I mean, I think we're spending 70 million on Mbeumo. I mean, 65 initial fee taken up to 71 and 62.5 on Cunha to play them in behind the striker. I don't think we're signing them to play at wing-back. I mean, they might play at striker a couple of times as well. Players out, we absolutely do have to get to. I mean, I just want to bring in a couple of things before I talk about my little Watkins shout. And people talking about the amount of time it's taken. Again, I've been frustrated with that. But United don't have much money to spend this summer. It's probably so we pay an initial very low fee of instalment, which allows us more money to spend on the books in the summer to potentially get that goalkeeper and that striker in. If it happens, I'll say, do you know what? It all worked out and we managed to get them players in because maybe we took a long time to negotiate the Mbeumo initial fee lower. If we don't go and sign a goalkeeper or a striker, it's redundant and there's no excuse for it. But yeah, if you look at Mbeumo, I just wanted to bring in some stats because it is really exciting. He's not just a one-season wonder. So if you look at him last season, 27 goals and assists. The season before that, 16 goals and assists. The season before that, 17 goals and assists. So it's 3 consistent Premier League seasons there. And I also wanted to bring this up as well. So he was 4th in the Premier League last season for goals scored. 1st in expected assists. No excuses for our strikers now. 1st in crosses. I mean, he might well play at wing back and rotate with Ahmad in that position, but I see him more as a 10 personally. Get him on them crosses. I mean, how much do United struggle to put crosses into the box? There's going to be no excuses for whoever's playing up front, whether that is Xerxes, Højlund, don't even really like saying it because we need a new starting striker or a new starting striker that comes in. 3rd most distance covered in the whole Premier League, so he's a grafter, and 3rd highest sprints in the Premier League as well. So do you know how Ruben Amorim says he needs a team that works like dogs that isn't only got the skill and the flair, but is going to put in the work. Mbeumo is not work shy. That Brentford team worked super hard. And we've seen he's a top professional. Despite how long this transfer saga took, despite how difficult Brentford were being, he stayed professional the whole time. No kicking off and not going to training. No, handing in transfer requests. He gave Brentford a slight nudge towards the end, but he's been super respectful. You didn't hear a peep out of him. So it just shows, what a player, what mentality that player has, as well as everything he can bring on the football pitch. Mario Cabrera says, I do think it's great that we've bought 2 of the top 10 scorers from last year. We need goals. Also wanted to bring in this as well. Where is it? God, I've got about 50 million tabs open right now. This is what happens when we have a deal like this. Okay, yeah, so when you look at the average ratings last year of players in the Premier League, top was Mo Salah with 7.78. Second was Cole Palmer with 7.63. Third was Bruno Fernandes, 7.62, our captain. Fourth was Matheus Cunha, 7.61, who we've signed. Fifth was Bryan Mbeumo, 7.47, who we've also signed. So United is going to have 3 of the top-rated players in the Premier League, 3 out of the 5. I mean, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Again, that is brilliant. I mean, even if you compare Mbeumo to Cole Palmer last season, 38 appearances for Mbeumo, 37 for Cole Palmer. 20 goals for Mbeumo, 15 for Cole Palmer. I mean, 8 assists for Cole Palmer, 7 for Mbeumo. And clean sheets, 8 for Mbeumo, 5 for Cole Palmer. I mean, that's not really much to do with the attackers. But that is, again, like Cole Palmer's one of the best players in the league and Mbeumo's beating him for stats and he's playing for a worse side. Like, it just shows the calibre of playing we're getting. Apparently, everyone's telling me there's a Fabrizio Romano tweet coming out. Let me see if I can find it quickly. It's all going off like a bottle of pop. Let me get it up. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Not pardon the pun of here we go as well. So, Manchester United plan to sign a new striker in the next weeks as main target after Bryan Mbeumo deal done. Outgoings will be key for the budget as Garnacho, Sancho, Rashford, Antony remain among players set to leave. Thank you. Thank you for that update, because as happy as I was about Mbeumo and Cunha, and I'm over the moon, the thought of not getting a striker did unsettle me. I did think that Mbeumo might be dressed up and packaged as our striker signing. And he can play up front, Cunha can play up front, they've both done it before. Xerxes, I actually think he's going to go to a new level next season. I really do have faith in him. But he's not an out-and-out bagsman yet. Højlund last season had a lot of chances and just was nowhere near good enough. I think he needs to be a backup to a number 1 striker. So the fact that United have recognised that Mbeumo and Cunha for the attack still isn't quite enough for a team that scored 44 league goals last season, a terrible output. I mean, we couldn't score goals to save our lives. The fact that we've recognised this and we might have a brand new front 3 going into next season is music to my ears. Cunha, Mbeumo and a new striker. It transforms us. It really does transform us. And as much as I want a new keeper as well, just a new front 3, I think is going to be a big improvement for Manchester United. And I think that it's not a perfect transfer window, but where I'm at with this team and how frustrating our attack was last year, it certainly would go a long way. It would go a long way. And I'm not going to say I'd be happy with it, because I do want a keeper as well. If we get a keeper, I will take it and run. But just a new front 3 in this window would be fantastic for Manchester United, and it will transform us. I truly do believe it. It's so important. And this nicely brings me on to my point that I was going to mention about Ollie Watkins. So there's been a couple of reports. Ben Jacobs put out about Benjamin Sesko, keep an eye on him. He said it on our show yesterday. He said it last night. Sam, who has worked with the United stand in the past, we love Sam, put out about Sesko being open to joining Manchester United, and United have been scouting him for 3 years last night. And there's been quite a few murmurs around Sesko. He is one to watch. Gonna be honest, guys, not my first choice. I don't know if it's because I've just seen him, the games I've seen him play, I've not been overly impressed. But I do think he still has quite a few levels to go up, to be honest with you. And I still think he is a learner driver, as Mark would say. Got the potential for sure. I want someone with a little bit more experience, but, beggars can't be choosers, and I would take it if we went and signed him. However, they were playing hardball with Arsenal in the negotiations. I don't see United being able to get Sesko over the line for under 70 million. And if we pay 70 million for another young striker like we did with Rasmus Højlund, are you just repeating the same risks of the past? It's something you've got to think about. So I'd park the Sesko story. I think Sesko's camp might be pushing that out as well, because the Arsenal move didn't come off and he probably wants to move to the Premier League. So we definitely have had interest in him in the past. We opted to go for Xerxes last year. The time before that, we opted to go for Højlund. You might not agree with that. I mean, personally, Højlund hasn't worked out as it. I do think Xerxes has a good future. I do like him. So we'll see where that goes. I can't see it coming off. I see United going for either a Mateta or a Watkins. That's where I see it. And just maybe even a Nicholas Jackson. I think a lot of it depends on Garnacho, you know. I think Rashford might end up being a loan to Barcelona. I'm going to be honest with you. Anthony, are we really going to get much money out of that? Betis are probably going to do as a makeshift deal. Sancho, I mean, we'll get a bit of money back, but it's not going to be groundbreaking. Malacia, I mean, you'd be lucky to get a can of Pepsi Max back at this point. So the real moneymaker here is Garnacho. Garnacho has made it very clear he's prioritising a move to the Premier League. The three clubs that have shown interest in him are Tottenham Hotspur, because Son might be leaving. Chelsea, despite the fact they've got Jamie Gittins, Madueke has left. You know, Pedro Neto prefers playing on the right, as Ben Jacobs exclusively told us yesterday. You have Kenda's not coming in until next year. I think Garnacho really likes the Chelsea move. They've been interested for a little while. And they have two players they might try and push towards United in return. Mirrored deals. Not exactly a swap, but mirrored deals. And they would be Nkunku or Nicholas Jackson. I'm going to be honest, guys. Nicholas Jackson and Nkunku do not cut it for me. If he was an injury-free Nkunku, I'd take him with open arms. But the injuries, I can't be putting up with. I do think there's a player in there, but injuries, no. Nicholas Jackson, I actually think is better than what people think. I think there is a player in there, but I don't think he's suited to United. I don't think we can risk it. I think he misses too many opportunities. And I think an Aston Villa would suit him a lot more, where he has that time and patience. But I do think there's a better player in there than what people make out. I think he is kind of, he's kind of laughed at, isn't he? And kind of, you know, people take the mick out of him. But I think there is a better player in there than what you think. But either Nkunku and Jackson, for different reasons, wouldn't be good enough for United, in my opinion. Nkunku because of injury reasons, and Jackson just because of where he's at right now in his career. For me, I don't think it's a good fit. Too much of a risk for United. Then you've got Aston Villa. They really want a left-sided player. They wanted to sign Rashford, I think. I'm pretty sure they wanted to sign Rashford. I'd have to fact-check it, but from what I can remember, Rashford wants a move abroad and he wants a Champions League club. Thanks to United, kind of shot ourselves in the foot with that one. Aston Villa didn't get Champions League on the last day of the season, so they couldn't offer that to him. They want a left-sided player. Garnacho's already been wearing the Aston Villa kit on his holidays. I think Emery has got a great reputation for getting the best out of, you know, problem players, which Garnacho has kind of turned into being. I think he'd do well there under Emery. If he got his head down and, you know, worked hard under Unai Emery and listened to him, I think he'd do well there. Watkins was pushing to go to Arsenal in January and they came in for him. You know, apparently, you know, him and Emery, you know, might want to part ways. Emery was benching him for not benching him for himself, benching him for Rashford in Champions League games. I mean, imagine if you're Watkins. You have got Villa, not single-handedly, but you've put a big graft in to get Villa into the Champions League. You got into them Champions League spots. As soon as you come to a make-or-break game against PSG, you get benched for Rashford twice. I would not be happy. I really wouldn't. And they end up going out as well. I'm not saying it's because of Rashford. Rashford actually played pretty well in that game. But you won't be happy. I think that relationship has broken down a little bit. I don't think Unai Emery was happy with some of the comments he made publicly afterwards. I thought he was very right to do so. I think he got asked in an interview about being on the bench and he said he wasn't happy to be on the bench. And I thought I'd probably say the same thing if I'd been through what he'd been through in that situation. So Watkins, I really could see happening. Premier League proven, has got experience. I would actually be happy with him if we got him in at the right price. It wouldn't be, I'm going to take my top off and run around the garden and spin it around in the air. But it'd be, you know what, that is an improvement. But he's got flaws to his game. I would warn people about this. I mean, a lot of you guys are well up on football, and you know, you watch the Premier League, you don't just watch United. But he does miss a lot of chances, and it's just whether the United fans will give him that patience. But I think if you're working with Mbeumo, if you're working with Cunha, you're working with Bruno, Ahmad, quality players, them chances surely are going to come. And if you look at Sporting, Amorim's Sporting, you know, Gyökeres got chance upon chance upon chance. But, you know, it's not just all about the striker in an Amorim system. He likes his number 10s to chip in with goals as well. Hence why we've brought in Cunha and Mbeumo. They will chip in. And if Cunha's chipping in, if Mbeumo's chipping in, if Bruno's chipping in, if Ahmad's chipping in, I mean, you've got goals coming from a lot of places. And what Watkins is good at, which I think would be one of the positives of bringing him in, is he's good at link-up play. He's good at running the channels. He's a workhorse, which is what Ruben Amorim likes. So it could be a good signing. It's not one, I wouldn't call it a 10 out of 10, but I'd call it a solid 7. Like, I'd be happy with it. And it's absolutely an upgrade on what we've got. I think Mateta's pretty exciting as well, but we've barely talked to him, and Palace don't really have anything we would want right now. I think if Villa go in for Garnacho and the relationships starts to build there, I could see the Watkins deal happen as well. Sadly, I could also see him going to Chelsea and then us maybe going for Jackson, which I would be against, to be honest with you. I would be against that one. I would much prefer Ollie Watkins from Aston Villa. So, yeah, I think you can't hide the fact that he probably would be a plan D. Like, it was Delap, it was Gyökeres, you know, maybe Sesko's in around there, and then you go to, you know, Watkins and Mateta. But it'd be an improvement, and he knows the Premier League, and I think he'd suit the system that Amorim's trying to play, and I think he would. I think he would bring a lot of good, but I think he would need patience from the fan base. The Allegiance says, great signing with Mbeumo. We just need to go to Brazil now and get Rios and John to join. Brit A says, Samu, question mark, Watkins, question mark, Mateta, question mark. Wow, I would love Samu from Porto. I think he's top, and he's young. I don't know why anyone's not gone in for him. He's a bully. He's an absolute bully. He gets in good positions, and his finishing's excellent, and he's young. I like Samuel, I like that shout, but we've not been linked to him once. Quick question for you guys before I wrap up. If you had the choice between Watkins and Mateta, who would you go for? Who would you go for in there? The thing is with Watkins for me is he's a good striker, but at 29, he's not got the ceiling to become a great striker. Like, you have the Haaland and the Isaacs, and then you have, like, you know, the Watkins and the Matetas of the world, but you know, it's still a good striker, and United have to probably walk before they can run as well. Like, let's be honest, like, we're 15th. Like, beggars can't be choosers in that sense as well. You have Rob, always United, saying, I'm starting to think top 6 is achievable, Beth. Ricardo Guzman says, we've got a better offence than Chelsea, just 2 of them. Chelsea spent a lot of money as well. Miles Doy says, obviously, it's taken us far too long to close, but buzzing to get Mbeumo locked in. Let's hope we keep it up and get some other business done sharpish. Mario Cabrera says, I do think it's great that we have bought 2 of the top 10 goal scorers from last year. We need goals. And Kevin says, after Romano stressing on Gyökeres, wants only Arsenal. Now, even if Arsenal fumble, I don't want United to go for him. I don't think that Arsenal are going to fumble it. I think he will sign. He seems to be bending over backwards to get that deal done, doesn't he? I think most of you are saying Mateta, maybe purely because of his age. Watkins always been there, just never made it to the top. So Mateta, says Savage. The majority of you guys are going Mateta. I think I would agree with you in that, but I think they are, you know, similar levels. But I do think Mateta is maybe got a bit of a higher ceiling and maybe a little bit more exciting. But both of them, you know, United would be improvements for United. And a few people saying Sesko in there as well. Sesko's a bit of a risk, but probably, you know, greatest risk, greatest reward. If he turns out being super good, you've got a young top player in, haven't you? So it'll be interesting to see where United go, but Romano seems to think it's a striker, and that is music to my ears. Let's see who it will be. Thank you everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video if you've not already. And Mbeumo will be on the US tour. The United stand will be on the US tour as well. So hopefully we'll be bringing you all the action up close and personal of Cunha and Mbeumo, 2 new signings on the tour. Smaller squad that Ruben Amorim's taken out there as well. I think it'll be a really interesting tour to see how these players play, see how they've reacted to Ruben Amorim, and obviously we'll have the 2 new signings there as well, which is always exciting. So let's see if we can add anyone else, a striker hopefully. Have an amazing Friday, people. Smiles on the faces, and Mbeumo's coming to Old Trafford, and I will see you on the next one.